Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Prophetic Lifestyles with Bernard Bolton, where we are making the prophetic practical, bringing the prophetic into everyday life, where every day we are experiencing God through the prophetic, and where we are making the future today. Today is the beginning of your future. So tonight I wanted to come on and I want to share with you from Genesis chapter 41. And I want to talk about the dream that made world history. The dream that made world history. So in Genesis 41, Pharaoh, and at that time, Pharaoh, as the head of Egypt, is the most dominant ruler in the world, pretty much like the president of the United States is called the leader of the free world. In that time, in that era, Pharaoh was the dominant ruler in all the earth. His nation was the leading nation among the nations of the earth. And one night, Pharaoh had a dream, and actually, he had two dreams. And it was an unusual dream. And he couldn't discern the interpretation. He couldn't interpret the dream. He went to his people, his astrologers, the people who were versed in dreamology and who could discern things, but they didn't have true discernment because they did not have their giftings from the Lord. So Pharaoh, who was also considered a god, could not interpret the dream, and neither could any of his men. None of his men could interpret the dream, and so uh, and so the butler, Pharaoh's butler, said his something clicked in his memory, and he remembered Joseph, who at that time was a prisoner in jail. Joseph had been falsely accused by his master's wife of sexual improprieties and was jailed as a result of that false accusation. So then the butler remembered Joseph because the butler had had an unusual dream along with the baker. Both of them had been imprisoned by Pharaoh, and both had had an unusual dream. And they came to Joseph, who was both a dreamer and a dream interpreter, and and both men shared the dream. And Joseph said, one man, the interpretation of the dream said that he said that the baker would die, but the butler would live and be restored to his former position. So as Pharaoh was sharing these unusual dreams, because he had two dreams, even though they both were different, they both had the same message. God will often give you a dream. So when you are having a recurring dream, the dream will look different. It'll have different scenes, but it will have the same message. That's how most of our dreams are. Even though the landscape of the dream, the scenes of the dream, the places change, there is still the same message that God is communicating. And so then the baker, let me, so then the butler remembered Joseph and said that there was a young man in jail who interpreted the dream, and it was an accurate interpretation. So Pharaoh summons Joseph. Now remember, when Joseph is introduced to us in Genesis 37, he's a dreamer. He had two dreams, and now 13 years later, at around the age of 30, he is brought to Pharaoh to interpret his dreams. So this is the moment of destiny for both Joseph and Pharaoh. So as Pharaoh is sharing the dream, sharing the two dreams, Joseph gives praise to God, and he says that the interpretations belong to God. He said, that's what Joseph said. It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer, and that answer will give him peace. And so Pharaoh shares the dreams with Joseph, and Joseph gives what Pharaoh believes is a correct interpretation. Now, one of the things that we see in this interchange is that Pharaoh had faith in Joseph's ability, because Joseph was interpreting dreams of things that were coming in the past. Of course, the first dream spoke of the present and the future. It spoke over a period of 7 years. The second dream spoke of another period of 7 years. And Pharaoh believed the interpretation of Joseph. So there always has to be an element of faith when you're hearing an interpretation. Do you believe that this interpretation comes from God? Even as you may believe that the dream comes from God, do you believe the interpretation? Do you have faith for the interpretation? So this is what as I'm getting ready to wrap this up. In verse 32, Joseph says, and for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. I love that verse, because that verse reveals that it was God who gave the dream to Pharaoh. God gave the interpretation to Joseph. And what God showed Pharaoh is what he was going to create in the earth. Now, someone will say, well, how is a famine, which was the second dream? The first dream spoke of 7 years of prosperity and abundance. And during that time, Pharaoh was to save a portion of the abundance, to save a portion of the prosperity, because the next 7 years that followed it would be years of famine. God created that. That's what Joseph said. This thing is established by God, and God will surely bring it to pass. All right. So I love that, because where it says, and God will bring it to pass, that is one Hebrew word. It's several words in English, but it's one Hebrew word, and the Hebrew word is asah, and asah means create. So it was God who created the dream that Pharaoh saw. God created the interpretation that Joseph gave, and God will create both the abundance and the famine. Why did God create the famine? Because God was going to bring the children of Israel, the descendants of Israel. Israel is not yet a nation. Israel is a family of about 70 persons. Israel, other name was Jacob. And God brought a famine to the earth to move the family of Jacob, to move the family of Israel to Egypt, so that they could grow up and become a nation, although they became a nation through 400 years of slavery, which was not God's plan. But God's plan was for them to be transformed. So God created the famine. Here's what I'm saying. Pharaoh's dream was the change of world history. So you could very well be a Pharaoh, and you could have dreams that will change the history of your life, your family, your culture, your region, or your world. So do not minimize your dreams, and do not ignore the dreams that you do not understand. Seek the interpretation of the dream. Learn the interpretation of the dream, or go to one who is operating as a dream interpreter and discover what is God showing me and what is God creating. Dreams are very creative, especially, I believe all prophetic dreams are creative because God is revealing something that he's going to bring to pass in its own time. He's going to bring it to pass. You just need to understand the dream, prepare, do what the dream is showing you, and then see the creativity of God come to pass. Guess what? I am going to be having a school. I'm calling it the School of Prophetic Dreams and Visions 2022. It starts Saturday, November the 5th, 2022. It's going to continue November 12th, and then November the 19th. We're going to take a break on the 26th, since that's Saturday after Thanksgiving, and then we're going to come back for the last 3 sessions. So this is going to be six sessions, okay, of School of Prophetic Dreams and Visions. And I want to invite you to come and be a part. If you want to learn what are your dreams, how to interpret your dream, what is the nature of your dreams, how to create an understanding of how to get an understanding of your dream, how to partner with God in the bringing forth of your dreams, okay? You should enroll in this school that is coming up November the 5th. I look forward to being with you. We've got a lot of great things that will be going on. You can go to the description box of this video and get more information. It will take you to the landing page where we have the full description of the school, along with the syllabus, along with the what we're going to be studying each week of the 6 weeks. And the box is there for you to register. And if you register for all 6 classes, you're going to get a copy of my book, which is the handbook of dreams and visions that I wrote and released. All right. So God bless you. Thank you for being a part. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with others. Shalom. Shalom.